Okay, welcome to How to Prepare for Your Job Interview. My name is Christopher Reither, and I'm from Youngji University, and we're going to be talking about how to prepare for the job interview. Okay, so one of the first thing when you actually apply for a job and you go through the process, you submit your resume and you wait, and then ting, you get an email and they'll say, hey, congratulations, you have a job interview. Well, the first thing you really want to do is find out what kind of interview is it, okay? So let's start with looking at what kind of interview is it, okay? So let me see if I can move this out of the way a little. I guess it doesn't want to, there it goes. Hello, okay. What kind of interview is it, okay? So let's start off looking at the job interview. Now, when you get that interview, it can be online. Now we're in COVID-19, so the first few interviews will probably be done online. But later, when everything gets back to normal, you never know. It might be online, it might not. Now we have in-person, which means you go and sit down. Now in-person means you're there with either one person or maybe a panel, like 3 or 4 people. Basically, they're going to ask you a bunch of questions. And we have small group. Sometimes you might be with 2 or 3 other candidates, kind of scary, in the room. Now, we have these mass interviews, which are usually civic jobs or government jobs, or jobs that just everybody applies for. Sometimes they do these mass interviews, and they do it to like go through and handpick the people they want. No rhyme or reason to these. Sometimes you go and you sit down and they're like, hey, you. You're like, me? It's like, yeah, come on up. Other times they don't choose you. So usually you have to go and pre-prepared, but the mass interviews are very difficult, okay? Now, what order of interview? Is this your first interview, second interview? Now we're gonna watch a video, or I've watched a video that explains it different kinds. Some of them are technical, like if I was to get a job as a professor, we have some interviews where professors come in and actually teach in front of us. Now, these are more of a technical where you come in and show your skill. Sometimes it's done in the job site or in the factory. Usually those are the second or third interview. The first interview is just basically getting some standard questions. So you want to know the order of the interview you're in. If you can find out who's interviewing you, is this going to be like the CEO? I've been in where like the president of the corporation showed up, and I've been in ones that just has some human resource or some even volunteer. You never know who's going to interview you. So find out, if you can, who's interviewing you, and then you can prepare, maybe find out about the information about the person who is going to interview you, okay? So let's look even a little closer on how do you interview. Now, the answers always depend on the company's mission statement and philosophy. You have to research your company. Number one, research, research, research. If you're going for Samsung, or you're going for Facebook, are you going for Google, or you're going for Hyundai, or if you're going to Ford, or if you're going to a European company or a German company or a company that's in Japan, wherever you go, most companies have a vision statement and a philosophy. So we're going to find out a little more about how do you research it and how do you prepare your answers according to their mission statement. There's also the job you're applying for. Your answers, your preparation will determine by the description of what they're looking for and the responsibilities, what you are going to do in the job. So remember those 2 areas, okay? So let's go on a little deeper here and look at that. Now, what you're going to find is the company's purpose. Usually that is on the website, or like this article here, which was found in a website called panmore.com. They actually did an analysis of Samsung's mission statement and vision statement. So doing an analysis, finding somebody else's analysis, or doing your own is, what does the company stand for? What do they believe? What are they looking for in their employees? What are they looking for in their products? Usually you'll find that in their website under like their purpose or vision statement. Sometimes it says about us. That's basically what you're looking for. So let's look at the mission statement for Samsung. Now, the mission statement says, we will devote our human resources. Human resources means you and me. I am a human resource. And then there's a department that actually deals with all the employees and the people. We call these human resources. Now, and technology. Now, why do they look at technology and people? To create superior products and services, thereby contributing to a better global society. Now, they have three areas or three components right there you'll see. One, they focus on human resources and technology resources. Okay. Two, superiority of products and services. If anybody's had a Samsung phone, or maybe even some of their computers or their big appliances, Samsung has really good quality, and their service is actually pretty good as well. Now, also, we have improvement of global society. Now we know it's a global company. Some companies are small and they only focus on their country or their state or their city. Sometimes they only service one area. So it depends on what their mission statement is. So when you prepare, you want to remember they're into products and services and bettering global society. So you want to think of some ideas and examples. And on my how to actually answer questions video, which you're going to do next, which is the second one, we're going to actually cover this a little deeper. So the second area we're going to look at is their vision statement. This is their current, what they're focusing their vision, say over the next 2 or 3 or 5 years. Now, Samsung has a vision 2020, inspiring the world, creating the future. So maybe you want to bring up inspirational type of things, or maybe your creativity, something you have done during the interview. You would bring up your past, something where maybe you're inspired or you want to inspire other people. Maybe you're into creativity or thing. Now notice they use the word inspire again in their vision. They want to inspire the world with innovative technology. So if you're into innovation or you're into technology, products and design, maybe you're into design. So remember, you would bring in this area and answer a question like, hey, I want to work for this company because I like their vision statement. I really am inspired by Samsung products. And, I really believe in creating things that'll help other people. And then you would give an example of something you have done. Now it talks about enriching people's life, contributing to social prosperity, and creating a new future. These are what we call buzzwords: creating, contributing to society. What does that mean? Well, that's up for you to kind of fit it in when you're preparing. What kind of things could you say? What could you put in your resume? Focus on that would help you fulfill there. What can you do for them? That's what you want to think about, okay? So let's take a little bit deeper here. Now, what I did is there's lots of websites you can go to, and this is from Samsung. I went on their website, and it's like hiring process information. You see that down there? So I kind of clicked on that to find out what kind of jobs does Samsung have offering. Now, basically, when you go through the list here, they link me to My Workday. Now, Workday is a public company, Workday. And what they do is they help people and help companies find jobs and find employers. And so I went through here, and what you want to do is you go through and like senior engineer, you're like, nah, I'm not that good yet. Network supporter, you're like, maybe I can do network. Product marketing manager, there's senior data engineer, process integrating. Now, clean ops equipment engineer, you're like, maybe that's something I can do. Now, of course, these are talking about engineering jobs, but there's lots of different jobs that you might want to apply for. Okay, so let's look a little deeper. So what you're going to do is when I clicked on it, it said sign in with LinkedIn. Now, you can apply for jobs using LinkedIn. I'm going to make a video about LinkedIn and your resume. I hope you watch that. It'll be very helpful, and that'll explain a little bit more about resume and applying for jobs. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to go through these jobs, and when you open them up, they're going to talk about roles and responsibilities. Now, this is where you prepare, you read through it and say, hey, can I do these things? Now, notice the first one says they need to be SEMES equipment. Okay, that's several single wafer wet cleans and wet tech equipment. It's equipment in wafer technology. Apparently wet means water. So if you're going to apply for this job, you might want to know what they're talking about. So maybe look that up. What is SEMES equipment? Maybe you have experience with that. If you use that in your university, then hey, maybe you have some experience with that, okay? Now notice, and throughout this, it keeps talking about developing tools and improvement. This one says oversees maintenance and repair of equipment. That's what they're looking for, equipment maintenance kind of person. Now, this explains what you're looking for. Now, notice it says priority, scheduling, performance, documentation, and readability. These are what they're talking about when they're making plans. So if you're going to prepare for your interview, you would want to talk about your experience or maybe something you have done in repair or maintenance. Maybe it was a lab equipment or something like that. Maybe it was even a job, part-time job, and you're working on, say, a coffee shop and you help them with their equipment. That would be okay. Now, it's not the same thing, but it is experience. Now, it talks about serving as a team member. So you might want to talk about how you can work with teams. It talks about task force teams. So apparently, this job, not only do you need to know the engineering part, but you also need to know about teamwork. So you could bring up that. Okay. Other interesting things like develops improved process to increase capability. This is for those technical guys or girls that are really into improving things, increasing capability. Like maybe in your own life, you are having a struggle with your homework and maybe you made a plan, some kind of process that you went through. These are the kind of things you want to talk about in the job interview. So you prepare for the interview talking about these different areas, okay? Talks about communicating with senior leadership. So maybe you have to do some actually verbal communication. Mostly this job looks like it's more working with equipment. Now, the next thing you want to do is look at the skills and qualifications. Usually you do this first, but in this case, that came up first, and underneath it was, because I notice it says you need a BS in engineering, preferable mechanical, chemical, electrical. Now notice it says no minimum number of years required. Now that's pretty good. So that would maybe entry level, right? So if you don't have an engineering degree, they're not going to hire you. If you got a degree in economics or a degree in maybe, I don't know, in physics, that's not what they're really looking for. So you'd always want to look at the qualifications. Now, it also talks about advanced skills and application of experimental design, process improvement. You should have some kind of experiments and some kind of work somehow. I don't know if it's like volunteer or if it's in your college, maybe even in high school. Maybe you did some kind of design. That's what they're looking for. So you would definitely talk about these experiences in the interview. Now, you need to have basic project engineering skills and management skills. So please bring up something where you've done some kind of project in engineering, obviously. We have standard operating procedures. These guys love that word, SOP. I like to follow standard operating procedures. I like to follow whatever the guidebook says. I like to follow that when I'm working. That's what they're talking about there. You want to know about technical documents. They're looking for those technical geeks that want to follow the rules. If that's you, you'd be good for this job. Now it talks about lifting up things. It talks about sitting at a computer for extended periods of time. If you don't like sitting at a computer all day, you probably don't want this kind of job. Apparently, that is something that's important. Okay, so you can go through these and look at the skills and qualifications. You notice it says work shift on a 24/7 manufacturing environment. That means Samsung in this job never stops. You would want to say, hey, I don't mind working, and even if I have to work at night or in the morning, I'm ready 24/7. That would help you. They probably go, oh, good job, because they're looking for somebody who's willing to work in this kind of environment. Okay, maybe that's not for you. I would not want this job, but maybe this is a job that you have. So you look through this and you start preparing your answers according to these, okay? So let's go on to our next one now. Let's see, ding, 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 ding. Okay, now, here how you prepare your answers. Now, there's a technique called STAR. Basically, it's like this, ready? They ask you a question like, what did you learn in university that would help you? Or what in your job working, what experience did you have? Or tell me a little bit about yourself. What kind of person are you? Now, what you want to do is what we call the STAR. You have the first one is the situation. You describe the situation. What was happening? Where were you? Okay. The task, the T is the task. You'd say, well, here's why, this is what was happening. I was in this part-time job and this was my assignment. This was my task. Okay. Then you're going to say your action. This is what I did. So here's my example, right? Specific example. And then you always want to say, what was the result? What happened? Don't forget the result. And this is where you want to impress them. Like, here's my specific example. This is what I did. And here was the result, right? Like maybe your job got better. Maybe the company made more money. Maybe you helped your part-time job have better customer service. Or maybe you did a project in one of your classes. You would use the situation, S, T, the task, then the action, and then the results. So you could remember that when you're preparing your examples. Remember, you always give specific examples for every question. Do not use generalities. Don't use general. Always be very specific. The STAR is a good principle. Okay, let's look at a few more things. Ready? Okay, now, so you got the thing. You got your answers ready. Now, first of all, always arrive early. Do not show up late. It should be obvious. I tell people not 10, 5 or 10. I get there a little bit earlier so I can breathe and calm down and I can go up into the building. Now I don't get not too early, like an hour early is too much, but 10, 15, 20 minutes would be okay. Okay. Now watch your non-verbal cues. This is the way you sit. This is the way you shake your hands. This is the way you stand up straight. Don't hunch down and go, oh, like, hello, hi. You know, stand up straight and tall, keep your eye contact. I tell people when you come into the interview, wait for them to say, please have a seat. Don't just walk in and sit down, plop. Stand in there and wait for a minute. They'll say, ooh, have a seat. If they stand up and come over to you, shake their hand. And then I wait for them to sit down and then I sit down, okay? These are just things, your nonverbals. Make sure you sit up straight, okay? And maybe lean forward a little bit. These are called nonverbal cues. Don't look bored, right? Don't yawn. Don't keep looking at your watch. Don't even wear a watch. Take your phone and get rid of your phone. Just come in with yourself and your portfolio. You'll be good. And stand up straight, sit down straight, make that eye contact, right? And speak out clearly when you're talking. Don't put your head down. Don't turn sideways. Try to focus on the people and make eye contact. Look in their eyes, very important. Now, you're going to do most of the talking, okay? Now, and don't ramble. That means don't keep going on and on about something. Keep it stars. Just do your situation and then what happened and your results and your action. And just keep your answers in about maybe a minute or so per question. Don't keep going on and on. The more you talk, the more errors you can make. Don't talk too fast, obviously, and don't just say, oh, I want to work here because I like Samsung. So it's really important to find a space, like 30 seconds, 40 seconds, a minute. Don't ramble, okay? Be genuine and tell the truth. Do not lie. A lot of times they can tell when people are lying. And don't say, oh, well, I was the top of my class. And when I was at a job, I did so well that they doubled their profits. And I am such a great person. And be genuine, tell the truth. Don't, if you haven't done something, tell them, no, I've never done that experience, but I'd like to learn, right? So if they ask you a question and you're like, no, I have not, always tell them, but I'm willing to learn. I don't have that experience, but I'm willing to learn. Don't lie about it and say you can do it when you cannot. Now, obviously have your questions prepared, right? When it's done, send an email or a thank you note. Always send a follow-up thank you note. Always say, hey, thanks for having me. Send it to whoever. You can also call a few days after. We call that follow-up. Now, I like to wait for a while. I do my thank you, and then I wait for about a week, and then I contact them. Usually like, hey, I'm just checking up, or if you need any more information. I will usually send a note, an email usually. Sometimes I've actually called them, and that's been helpful. And one time I got a job because I called. They're like, oh, who is this? Is it Chris? Oh, yeah. Hey, we're interested in you. And because I called them, talked to the guy, he actually hired me. I think if I didn't call, he probably would have forgot about me, right? Now, dress a notch above the dress code. Always dress, I always tell people, wear the best you got, right? Now, if it's not a tie and maybe it's not a formal, still wear a nice shirt, wear nice pants, wear nice shoes. Obviously, you want to dress nice. Now, I like this one, be neutral with your smell. Please don't put a lot of cologne on. I did an interview once where this guy had so much cologne when he opened the door and walked in, it was like, I got hit by a big smelly, it was way too much cologne. So just a couple squirts, that is good, okay? So be neutral with your smells. And finally, let's look at a few more, okay? Prepare your resume. If you can, you can have more than one. Each job, you might have a different resume. I have like 4 resumes for different kinds of jobs I have done. If I'm looking for work, I have different kinds of resumes. So you want to prepare your resume. 2, you need to prepare yourself. Get your dress, your attitude. If you have to travel, if you need technology, if you need to bring your laptop or your portfolio, make sure you have everything ready with you, okay? Always bring your portfolio, always bring a copy of your resume and any licenses or certifications. I always tell people bring an extra copy. Sometimes they've lost it. You'll come in and go, excuse me, do you have your resume? And you're like, no, I don't. It looks bad. Make sure you're prepared when you go, okay? Now prepare your network. We're gonna talk about this later. Network means if you wanna find a job, you need help. So talk to people, professors, colleagues, talk to your friends, your family, your pastor, your teachers. Talk to people and ask them for help. Maybe you need a recommendation. Maybe you want to practice your job interview. Maybe you know somebody who works for Samsung. Call them and say, hey, I got an interview for Samsung. What should I do? Always network. That is a key. Sometimes it's not what you know, but who you know. It's always important to know people, so don't forget to network. 4, prepare your answers. Remember, your answers are talking about the job description and the job qualifications. Whatever you say has got to apply to the job. If you're applying as a cook, you want to talk about things that would help you as a cook. If you're applying for a researcher, you want to talk about things where it has your research and what the job is about. Always target the job description. You're going to have different answers for different companies. If you go to a technology company, it might be different than a food processing company. If you're going to a cosmetic company, it might be different than, say, a job at Emart or at Costco. Remember, you want to prepare different answers for each job interview you have. Usually they're about the same. You can use the same examples, but you want to twist them a little bit and target the job description. Okay, remember that when you're doing your answers. Okay, couple more things. Ready? One, always be prepared. Be prepared. Be prepared. Research the company. Get your resume in line. Get your portfolio together. Practice the questions. Read about the company. Then you need to calm yourself. This is the hardest part. Before the interview, whatever you need to calm yourself down and just breathe. Don't forget to breathe. I tell my students, breathe. Sometimes just breathing, calming yourself and saying, okay, I'm ready. Before the interview, calm yourself down. Then you'll be ready when you walk in. If you're nervous or you're frustrated or you're running late, it's hard to do a good job interview. And remember, take your time when you're answering the questions. You can say, excuse me, can you wait? Or repeat yourself, please. That's okay. If you don't understand the question, say, excuse me, can you say that again? Can you repeat yourself? Or you can say, are you asking me this? Are you asking me that? It's okay. So you understand the question and then don't rush your answers. Breathe, tell your little specific example, and just do what you've practiced, basically. So don't rush, take your time. That's basically what you're going to do to prepare yourself. And usually it's mostly about the job interview is being prepared, knowing your answers, calming yourself down, sitting up straight, making eye contact. These are all things that will help you to get a good job.